Alright, ladies and gentlemen, the 2006 Chevy HHR with the 2.4 LT. We are replacing the engine, wire, and harness, and we're going to tell you the reason why. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, as you know in the last video, we were telling you on how we found that my car started stalling a lot. So I went ahead and replaced the crankshaft sensor because I replaced all the other sensors besides this one, besides the crankshaft. So after installing it and stuff like that and all the new seals and stuff, it started getting worse with the stalling. Started doing it more than twice a day. Started having a crankage issue. It was doing it at cold or warm starts. Couldn't figure out why. So I went ahead and checked my grounds and stuff, and like I said in the last video, I checked my computer and everything. And this part right here had a bunch of brown, watery liquid coming out of it. But these two ports were fine. And even the connectors for these two ports were fine. The connector that connects to this one had some sludge in it too. I'm guessing it must have got in there probably like a week, well, 2 weeks ago. That's when the stalling started. It was like March 24th. My car hit around 224,000 miles. So I was told to use distilled water on this, but I used electrical cleaner, but I faced it upside down. Faced it upside down, then sprayed it to be able to get all that gunk out because I couldn't get it out with a rag without damaging the pins or anything. Then I let it sit outside in direct sunlight for 8 hours. And around 6 o'clock, brought it in, I checked it, it was completely dry. I smelt the ports, each one. They smelt like an actual PCM or ECM. And I didn't smell any burnt odor or any wires burning or any oil type substance or anything. But it kind of looked like it was oil. But when I checked my vehicle, nothing was actually leaking at all. I have no oil leaks or anything. And no antifreeze leaks. So I checked everything, and so maybe I'm thinking that maybe when the car got washed, maybe when it rained, maybe water for some odd reason got into this connector. And as you know, on the HHRs they use these little piece of crap covers that only covers the top but nothing that surrounds the bottom, which I think is kind of awkward because you think they would put a bottom piece on it. I mean, unless this car has one, but I don't even see a connector for this on the bottom part that shows that there is a bottom cover. So we went ahead, let it dry out. We tried plugging it back in. The car would not crank, was in theft mode. So I took the negative battery terminal cable, tapped it 3 times on the positive, disconnected it for at least 34 to 45 minutes so it gets out of theft mode. Make sure your auto lights are off when you do that. Then once you hook the battery back up, the anti-theft was disabled and it cranked up, but then it gave me a problem. The engine was shaking a little pretty bad, but not severe, but bad enough that it was going to whoop, like it was barely running. So come to find out, here's the wiring harness. And as you know, the problem for this was actually the gray, it was the gray cable. I gotta find it. Should be close by. Here it is. Here's the gray cable. This is the one that had the liquid. And this is the one that gave me... No, actually, no, it wasn't that one. I'm sorry. I think it's the one with the black handle. Hold on. It's not this one. Can't believe it's not right in front of my face, which is really sad at the moment. Give me a minute. I'm trying to. There's 2 blues and then there's a couple blacks. Shit. Actually, I'm sorry. Yeah, I think this is the one. Yeah, this is the one we had a problem with because this is the one I took the cover off. And as you can see, how these. Let me see. You see how this one has this little level thing? Once you click the security tab and you pull it back, it puts a firm tightness onto the pins and onto the port of the actual PCM. Keeps it from coming loose and causing electrical issues or any stalling or any other issues. Well, you can look at this one and you can see the level thing that was on here actually broke. And as you can see, the plastic piece is actually missing right here. I got the plastic piece till it took it off, but the plastic piece that surrounds that little notch on the actual handle part, it actually broke. And I never had to take this off because I was checking the grounds. The computer looked awful dirty, but for some reason all these other cables here, the connectors, these things work famously with no issues. This one gave me a problem. I took it apart the first time. Well, I disconnected it. It disconnected fine, but it made a loud popping sound like a crack. And that was with doing it gently. And it would not loosen. It wouldn't tighten back up again. So I tried looking online for scenarios to see what I can do. People locally was like, "Why don't you just cut it off and get into the connector?" And I said, "I don't feel safe with that because I don't know how well the computer is going to recognize and how it's going to behave when you put butt connectors on these. Because that's a lot of damn wiring, and I'd rather just buy a whole nother harness. Because you can't buy these connectors, you can't buy the harnesses brand new, and usually online, if you're lucky to find them, they're about like a $160 to almost $272. But at the Bullet Junkyard I'm going to is only offering $41 for the whole harness blade for the 2.4, so I'm getting it tomorrow. But yeah, the connector is just broke right there. And the reason how I can verify that is because if you look, they're all the same connectors besides the transmission control module. But this one here is in good shape because the pieces are not broke. The pieces are not broke that surrounds this. You can see how this has got the enclosure part that keeps this protected. And look at it again. Hold on. Let me see here. And here's that's the good one. Damn, I'm losing my mind today. And here's the bad one. As you can see, it completely broke in pieces. I think it was dry rotted. So it's done. I mean, it still works. I'm going to keep the harness because I can use these other connectors one day just in case if I need it. And how do you take all that off? First things first, disconnect your battery terminals, negative and the positive. I just did the negative. And you got to disconnect everything from your starter. As best bet to take pictures of your starter wiring just so you remember how it hooks back up so you don't get confused. And you got your alternator, ground, and you have the power for the alternator, and you got the port for the AC compressor, that connector. You got the NOx sensor, you have the oil pressure sending unit, you have the crankshaft sensor port, you have for the map sensor, you'd have for the evap control solenoid, you got the one for the camshaft sensor on the front and the camshaft sensor on the back, and you got the two VVT solenoids, all your fuel injector connectors, including your coil pack and the ones that goes to the input and the output speed sensor, including the transmission control module and for the two oxygen sensors, and it runs all the way down to this main the bigger connector that runs to the top of the transmission right there by the shift linkage. And basically that's it. But also remember, your relay box has got to come out because the relay box looks just like this. Hold on. My brand new shelf that I purchased, and I had to lay all this stuff on it. Hold on 1 second. Alright, this is what the fuse box looks like when it takes taken out. And people always ask me, how do you get those connectors off when it doesn't stretch very far? You see those studs, which are actually screws and they're not supposed to come out? Well, I bought them all. You unbolt these, the plugs just pop right back out. I recommend snapping those in first. before you lay it down so you don't have any complications. Always be sure all your fuses are good and everything at the time, so we don't have to worry about any issues. And you also have to be sure your battery ground your starter and your battery positive terminal need to be disconnected from the actual relay box. Pull your computer out, your transmission control module, so we know you have better access to these wires. Your intake has to come off to be able to get to all that mess. And make sure your computer pins and ports are not fried. Make sure they're all good, clean up really good. Best bet to clean your throttle body. Oh yeah, make sure your throttle body connector is disconnected as well. Make sure this hose, this goes to your crankcase and your throttle body is removed. Make sure your cover's removed. And my brand new seals broke, and these seals suck, just so you know. These are O'Reilly seals, and they wouldn't even stay in even when they were brand new. So I put RTV on it and it still didn't hold. So I think these seals do fit, but I just don't think they're actually right in dimensions. So I have to order another $35 kit. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to junkyard to get another intake manifold, because this piece was actually broke and it's cracked on the top, but it still works. So they got a newer HHR in that I'm going to go look at tomorrow to get all the parts off of. Because for the cost of brand new seals are $53, I could buy a whole nother intake with the actual OEM seals that are probably in great shape without any freaking RTV for like $31, which is probably what I'm going to do. And also be sure your whole air filter housing and everything comes off, and so on and so on. But I went ahead and pressure cleaned my engine. Make sure I put plastic bags in my holes and rags so I know it doesn't put water into the actual system, which you don't want to do. And clean the bottom of it off. It's all I would recommend. Clean your engine while you got all that taken out, and you should be good to go. Now, since we know what the problem was with the car, it did have water in it, but then it's another problem. So finding these harnesses at actual salvage yards are really, really hard to get a hold of. So if you plan on going to a pull-it junkyard that does not allow you to go back there and pull the parts for you, they're going to charge you an arm and a leg about close to $200 for a harness, and plus including with the ECM if you need one. You go to a pull-it junkyard that allows you to go back to pull your own parts, you're going to be spending under $100 on two parts that you need that it costs almost $200 a piece. And yes, I do know that most people buy these parts on purposely because they can go back and sell them on eBay for half the price to get the profit, which means they can make more money off of it. I don't do that. I just go out there and buy parts that I actually need for my car that I know I cannot get anywhere else. But always be sure when you buy a new connector, make sure it's right, coming for the same motor. Make sure nothing's broke on it because you don't want to waste your money. I'm not worried if a couple of things are broke on that one. As far as small connectors, if I have no choice, but I'll try to find a good one. I'm more worried about the ECM connectors the most, because everything else can basically be redone with those other good connectors. As soon as I get this thing put back together, I will make a video part 3 about the stalling out an issue on the 2006 Chevy HHR, and hope you have a great one.